this book that I referred to, I don't know where it was, but because of our lives in Gullus, our whole life, I'm talking about from birth, the way we're brought up, and what we've seen in the synagogue, we are not brought up, we're brought up Jewishly, but not as if you were brought up in Madisdorf like my cousin, you know, lived there, and this whole persona change, you know. The Jew that, according to Torah, is a lot different than the Jew that was brought up totally in the full atmosphere of Israel. You know, the whole community is totally different. We are so far that we have to be thankful that we were able to keep. And then we're further compromised because we live in this area. You know, all you have to drive is not even a half a mile, and you're in, again, Gullus. It's when you think about it, it's a very serious thing that.
Lawrence High School.
Not me, my cousin. I went to I went to prep school in Connecticut.
Just think about.
Oh, that was a total Episcopal.
People come from a secular background. They don't know what they need to do. They get messed up.
Well, we know that. That's true. I can't stand in the if it wasn't.
Sorry to go on, actually.
You did it? What?
Jacob Joseph.
When the, what do you call it? When the one's not set up already, I get nervous.
I
Like,
clearly.
it's just gonna take a long time to do.
So,
I'd rather cut the first
I'm
one.
not saying it's a
Okay.
bad lifestyle.
Yeah,
Two guys in them.
Yeah, one of them might be me. I'd rather cut the first few minutes than when some of the actual should get cut off.
Got you. Thank you.
Must be 30 years ago.
Pleasure.
New York magazine about how Jews aspire to be like Hebrews.
So I should put this away right after.
Secular Jews.
Yeah, I guess I would.
All the
I can
things
do.
that they aspire to in their community are all the Jewish concepts.
Probably the Jew wrote the article.
No, but it's all the Jewish concepts of Muslim. You know, the way to be, the way to speak, the way to dress.
Right.
The whole
Which all comes from Yiddish.
It all comes from, in other words, the way they are is the way we like to be. But it doesn't always work out that way. It's a very interesting sociological study. But as I say, when you read this book, you see, I just tell you, living in exile is disgusting.
Disgusting.
We're so accustomed to nursing from the breast of a foreign woman that we think it's impossible otherwise. Hashem complains about this. It says, how many years have you been accustomed to this? Does it disgust you? It begs us and loathes the exile. He even forces us to do so by way of current events. For if we do not loathe them, the Gentiles, they will loathe us. Wow. You see how they loathe us. In this way, he would rid us of our diaspora mentality, in which we have become so accustomed to living together with the Gentiles. Then he will teach us to live in conjunction and brotherhood with our fellow Jews without jealousy, hatred, or rivalry in our land, the portion of our inheritance. Amen. So may Hashem declare. And this, I just opened it. You witnessed this. The Gentiles always turn against us in the end. Furthermore, my brother, contemplate and recognize the history of our people throughout. Difficult times were always followed by easier times of freedom. However, the days of freedom only lasted a few decades, and then the hardships began once again.
Is that what's going on right now?
This has been Israel's lot throughout the journey of exile. So, like, we're finished with the Edom. Now we're in the thing of Ishmael, which is right before Mashiach. This has been Israel's lot throughout the journey of exile. We do not put your faith and trust in the cordiality that the Gentiles will show you after the passage of these difficult days. For strength does not last forever. So we can make Aliyah in two ways, because we cherish the land or because we are kicked out by the Gentiles. Let's do it because we cherish the land. I didn't write this.
You could have.
No, it has every quote from every Gemara. It's unbelievable. I didn't make it up.
We all belong there.
What?
We all belong there for sure.
We do. We absolutely love it. It's very hard to, And Rabbi left, it was either Lefkowitz or Kanievsky told me personally. When I asked him, we got every day to be in Israel. I said, what are we going to do for me? And he looks at my quiet, he studies my quiet, I don't know where you're at. And he says, you cannot move to Eretz Israel unless you're coming here to pray, to be part of Hashem's children. Don't come here unless you live in the same comfort style that you do at home. In other words, he didn't want me to assume it's a struggle. You don't go there to struggle. The truth is, I can't speak for everybody, but I would like to see 100% of people have enough that they can subsist comfortably in Israel, meaning by the time they sell their home and people go there. I can't speak for everybody. How can it be a poor person? But what's wrong with us? What's wrong with us is we haven't done hospitality. So if I would live at that house again, that's the same reason I'm not saying all. I'm not saying me. I'm saying
Nature.
It tells you in Psalm Hamel. You have 2 dinner, you want 4 dinner. Not all. I have a brother who still has the same pair of ripped jeans and t-shirt that he married. I mean, he says, I need 1 suit. How many suits can I wear? He says, I need 1 suit. How many steaks can I eat at a time? Okay. We all have our inner battles with this. And if you're never touched by it, if you want to see how sad it is, just go to the Charlie Center right outside here. And so, where we returned to go to Trader Joe's.
Yes.
During high school, regularly, see high school kids. You would find that girls with the color kids
Wow. It's gotten so much worse.
My parents in the house.
Right.
Yes, since COVID. Rabbi Ginsberg, who is Rav David Leibowitz?
David Leibowitz?
Yeah, who was he? I mean, what's his claim to fame?
Right now? The one who's alive now?
I don't know, picture of him on the front thing. I never heard of him. So you and I have the same problem.
No. It's not who says it's a problem.
What?
Who says it's a problem?
Well, it may not be, you're right.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we are on page 154. Okay, so now we're in the sugya. We're in the sugya, the sub-sugya within bitachon of social or lack of social interactions, pressures. We discussed for about 2 weeks about how to look at loneliness in terms of the eyes of bitachon. And we're going to move on now. As it says on page 154 on the bottom, you see in the bold, dealing with family and friends. So now we're going to discuss what happens if a person does have people to connect with, family, friends, so on and so forth. So let's read a little bit. The author now discusses how a person who has a family and a social network should have bitachon as it relates to his interactions with them. So we're going to learn, clear, this is a sefer bitachon, and how bitachon affects every sugya in our life. And now we're emphasizing the sugya again of the family and friends. So let's read carefully. Let's see what the Kodesh says about what bitachon do we have to have with our family and our friends. Yirmi Ginsberg bal isha ukrovim ve'ohavim ve'oivim yivtach belokim b'hatzaloso mehem v'yishtadel lefro ma shechayev lahem v'lasos cheftzeiim v'lios libo shalom imohem v'yiref yodo mehazakosam v'yisabiv ma sheyatov lahem v'yanemon b'chol inyoneim. So let's read. If the person trusting in God, we're talking about a Baal Bitachon here, has a wife, family members, friends, and enemies, okay, then he should rely on God to save him. In the Chovos Avavos, the actual text, he says, Yivtach belokim v'hatzalaso mehem. Should rely on the Kodesh Baruch, have bitachon on the Kodesh Baruch Hu, v'hatzalaso mehem. What does hatzala mean? Save. To save him from them. Okay? Bitachon is to save you from them. Doesn't really explain. V'yishtadel lifroa ma shechayev lahem, and then you go back. Let's just read the unbold what they added. That he should rely on God to save him from the burden usually associated with being involved with them. So they're learning that the saving is from that tircha, that burden that one feels when he has a family and friends and enemies, of course, and others. And he should make efforts to meet his obligations towards them. Right? You have obligations towards a spouse, towards a child, towards other people that are connected to you. You have certain obligations. And he should make efforts, hishtadlus, to fulfill his obligations. V'lasos cheftzeiim, okay, I'll just read the English, and to take care of their wants, and to do so wholeheartedly. Okay? He should avoid doing anything that will cause them harm. Instead, he should engage in the means that will bring them good. And he should be loyal to them regarding all their matters. So Yechil's like, what's the chiddush? Sounds like a normal human being. This isn't in bitachon, not a bitachon inyan. Is that what you're thinking?
That and
that was very nice of you. That and yeah.
It sounds almost like like one would treat employer or employee. It's a little cold, no?
Okay, well, it doesn't mean that we're going. I mean, with your kids, you have obligations, certain obligations that you're not going to have for your employers. He's not going into detail now.
Save them, take care of them.
Okay, so what's going on over here?
Yeah.
Okay, in the next page we'll get into it. He says he should teach them Torah. Okay, that's seemingly what a shaykh is to be talking. So, so this is what I'm thinking. What does this mean? The question, right? The question again. What are we saving? What's that we talking about? What are we saving this guy from?
I mean, it's very straightforward. Sometimes you think you married the wrong person, and you should know that Hashem sent you exactly what you need to be the best you could be, and gave you the best children. And you say, but I wanted that kind of child. So you should know that Hashem knows what he's doing when he sets up the family structure.
I hear that. That could be something under the lines what he means, but as he goes weiter, he does not make any mention of that. He's really discusses obligations, take care of their wants, don't harm them. little bit different than what you're saying, but you are right. Bitachon would be needed in that situation. That's anything in life, though, right? That's any time a person is not getting what they want. Bitachon says, 1 second, let's think about that for a minute with bitachon mindset. But yes, that definitely would apply here. Okay. So it's innate, I think, for most, when we're discussing here today, we're discussing normal people, normal logic, okay? There are crazos, extremists, we're not talking about them. Normal people. A person has we're gonna deal with children. We could discuss any of the relationships, but we'll deal with children and we can extrapolate also to wives. But when it comes to a parent and their child, it's understood that there's an obligation that we have to raise them. Begashmius, and if we're a Yid or if there's some other religion, I guess, whatever, but we're a Yid, so it's spiritually also. It's our job to somehow facilitate, directly or indirectly, it is on us to help raise them, right? This is Davar Pasha. Now, included in that, of course, is, let's say, you have to make sure that there's food, you have to make sure there's clothing, you have to make sure that they're bathed, that their shots are up to date, get into all the details and nitty-gritty. A parent understands intrinsically, innately, that it's on him. You're not going to ask the babysitter, to give them shots. It's not on them. It's on you. You have to take care of them. It's obvious that we have to get them educated, whether we teach them and we homeschool them, or the normal way has become, right, for the many, many years, you send them to schools. You try to choose the right school, and then you send them both to learn to be secularly educated, so they can live a normal human life, and spiritually educated. Now, that doesn't just happen. All the Gashmis, and there's a million details, as anybody knows who has had children, everybody here, and both in Gashmis and Ruchnish, there's a million details that goes into everything. To send a kid to yeshiva, well, that takes money. It's true that it's my obligation to get this kid educated in some way, and the general way is how do you do that? Send him to yeshiva or school, whatever. But that costs money, right? The understanding that a parent has that they have to love their child, they have to help them with their homework. There's a certain understanding, a little more, a little less, depending on the kid, depending on the parent. A certain understanding, you need to take them out on trips once in a while. You take them out. That takes time. That takes away from yourself. You have to give that time. You have to allocate it to the children. Right? That's not always so easy. Right? Going to get a job and feeling the pressure of all the physical needs. And a person has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children, and there's clothing, and so you might, you feel like you need more money, you need a higher paying job. Okay? So slowly but surely, it happens automatically, but I'm just speaking it out slowly. The pressures build up, pressures monetarily, pressures on your time. You have to be in many places at one time. There's a lot of stress that starts to build up slowly. Where's it coming from? Well, it's coming from my job, and it's coming from the fact that I have to be in 20 places at once. Why? Well, I have these children. Right? If, let's say, a person didn't have children, well then, like we said last week and 2 weeks ago, well, he wouldn't have to be doing carpools. He wouldn't have to be paying for the school education. He wouldn't have to be buying the latest fashion every single second. Those who have girls know. Every single second, literally. And he'd be unburdened. He wouldn't have to run around making X amount of dollars. He wouldn't have to allocate his time, which is already precious, already pulled in a million directions, to this kid and then that kid and then going here and going. But Lamaisa, when you do have the children, all these things build up. There's play dates, and there's carpools, there's dentists, and there's doctors. You're almost done, no? But then you're not, because then they could even have issues at college, and they have shidduchim, and then they get married, and they still need you, and then when they have children, they come back, and I'm not there yet, but it doesn't. Parenting doesn't end. It comes to the whole world, and the melee can come with a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety and a lot of buildup. Right? Hashem save me. So that's what he's talking about over here. That if a person, if the person trusting in God has a wife, family members, friends, and enemies, then he should rely on Hashem to save him from the burden that usually associated with being involved with them. So what does that mean? Give the kids back? Is that what it means? Save me. Someone should take them. I don't want this one. No. It means that all the issues should just go away. Well, what does bitachon mean? Bitachon means, let's just get it straight. Again, whenever he says bitachon, it always means the same thing. There's a Ribono Shel Olam who's running the situation. The one who gave me these kids and gave me this situation. Some kids need extra help with their homework, and some need less help. Some have bad teeth. Some don't have such bad teeth. It's a big range. Kadosh Baruch Hu created all those situations. He's the only one who has any say over this. You could have a kid who eats candy all day long with no cavities. And you have a kid who doesn't eat any candy and he has tons of cavities. It's up to him. We'll talk, of course, there's hishtadlus. Toothbrush is a hishtadlus. And a Kodesh Baruch Hu is doing it ultimately for my best. Right? Even though I'd like to sit on the couch now and relax and not do homework with my kid, but a Kodesh Baruch Hu knows it'd probably be better for your own personal life not to be lazy, but to work on your frustrations, to work on your laziness, to work on your being a father, and get up and help the kid with homework. Yeah, we're speaking generally. I'm not speaking anybody's specific situation, obviously. So this is what he's talking about. Bitachon can be used moment to moment when dealing with children. All of their wants. If I would count up the amount of times that they say, Tati, can I? Hundreds per day. And I have to fend some off. They say yes to some, I have to fend some off. You think you have it hard at work. So many demands. You have like a few little kids. They have many more demands than it by work. And you also like them. The guys at work, who knows if you like them or not. The kids you like. There's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, a lot of stuff going on. But bitachon can help alleviate that. A lot of the response that we have, whether it's the frustrations or can you just leave me alone right now? Tati's busy. Or whatever. It could be anger even. But all the stresses that come from the work to pay for the kids, and then in the back of your mind, if the kid, if he wouldn't have eaten the candy, then he wouldn't need the dentistry work, and I wouldn't have to spend $5,000, and maybe I could come home early. But because I need all the money, I have to stay late at work, and it's stressing me out. Sometimes without a person knowing it, it's coming out on the kids. But that's because that's because a person's not aligning himself properly with bitachon. Right? Because bitachon it's not me to the kid. It's always between me and a Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's always the relationship. Right? That's the ikar relationship. Through that, we can properly deal with the child in all the situations. And we make many mistakes, and we're humans, so we're all going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Or, I don't want to say mistakes. It's a dangerous word. But there are things that we could sometimes do better.
Their choices.
Make better choices. I like that. That's nice. Thank you. We can make better choices sometimes if we would align ourselves properly to bitachon. Again, very often the stress, all these things create bad choices. When a person's stressed, he's going to make bad choices. When a person's frustrated, he's tired, he's bothered, he's going to generally make bad choices. Or at least a higher percentage than when you're calm. Well, how do we deal with those bad choices? Well, we got to deal with the stress, we got to deal with the anxiety, we have to deal with... How do you deal with that? It's bitachon. It's bitachon. Yes? So the first understanding of how bitachon applies very clearly, I think, and openly to the sugya of, let's say, children, but it's also with the spouse. It's also with other social interactions. But the kid, we'll deal with kids, and we can understand how it easily goes to the other sugyas, is to work on bitachon to save us from not the situation necessarily, but from the response to the situation. Right? The frustration as a response to what's going on with me and my child, bitachon can calm that frustration down. I'm not giving the kid back. I'd rather have the kid with all his dental problems than not have the kid, but I want to have that with calmness. Some kids are going to have dental problems. Again, there's a million things. So how do you have the kid with the dental problems and be calm? That's bitachon. That's what it means to be saved. Saved from my own, inappropriate emotions. Right? That's what I think he means. We have a lot of obligations. And also a person, he says, what does he say? We have a lot of obligations. Kids, to a spouse, maybe to parents. We have a lot of obligations. And we're going to do them. But what does he say? Should be wholehearted. Meaning, I'm going to take care of my kids. I'm going to feed them. I'm going to buy my wife the thing that she wants. But am I doing it with ahava, wholehearted? Or am I doing it because I have to? Am I an eved to my wife and to my kids? Or am I a husband to my wife and a father to my kids? It's a big difference. If you don't want to do it, and you do it in panemius, you're an eved. That's it. That's one of the understandings of what it means to be an eved Hashem. No one's asking you what you want. You do what a Kodesh Baruch Hu tells you to do. But we know that's the lower level. There's a higher level, of course, as being a ben to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, a loving son who wants to do the will of his father. So too, it's the same with our obligations to whoever it is that we're talking about. Children, spouse, friends, maybe. The libo shalim, the full heart, is going to come when a person has shlemus, when a person's dealing with bitachon. Knowing that all the wants and the desires of these kids, ultimately it's coming from a Kodesh Baruch Hu for my best self. Kodesh Baruch Hu created kids, they're all the same. They all could really frustrate you. That's because the Kodesh Baruch Hu wants you to work on your frustration. Right? How else do you work on frustration unless you're given nisyonos or frustration? If you just lived in a house by yourself for the rest of your life, you've never been challenged in frustration. But then you're not an ishalit. You're just a guy who maybe or maybe not would get frustrated in a situation. We don't know. The person goes through the situations, goes through the nisyonos. And then with bitachon, he's able to conquer them. Now he's going to do everything libo shalim. That's amazing. That's awesome. Now you can fulfill all your obligations, even the ones that yesterday were so annoying that you had to do, and now you're happy to do it. Because you realize it's for you. Again, without bitachon, you think that everything is just these kids pulling at you, the wife pulling at you, or the husband, right? If women are listening, right? The husband they're just pulling at you. Now, sometimes there are inappropriate requests, and we'll get to that maybe in the next section in a minute. But let's say the regular, normal obligations. If we work with bitachon, recognizing that this is for me. Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted us to have kids and a spouse to build me. B'tzalmeinu kidmu seinu. That's the program. Does it make sense? Any questions on this portion? Okay. So let's go to the next section here. So on page 156. Again, this is even what we just said, where I added many more details to what the Chavos Avova said. He was very, very general, very, very general. And you can really miss the point, I think. Even the details I said, there's a million more details, and you really have to work on it. It doesn't just go in your head in 1 second. I will tell you that I was talking to somebody on Shabbos, and we were discussing bitachon a little bit, and I said, he was telling me that, and he's in the beginning, he's working on it, but sometimes when he gets into a situation and he starts to get very, very frazzled, he's really behind the 8 ball. It's very hard for him to bring the bitachon in, which I get. It's hard to calm himself down, believing that a Kodesh Baruch Hu wants us to be, which we've discussed. We don't want to use bitachon ever. I'm saying this again for like the 10th time. Bitachon is not an SOS emergency situation. Bitachon is the way you wake up in the morning. It's the first word you said, Moda'ani lefanecha. It's a proactive way of living. You have to understand that. It's not only when you want to make money and you need a job or you need to win a lottery, you start to think, Kodesh Baruch Hu, I trust in you. Please help me X, Y, and Z. Or if there's low lane or a bad situation, now you're like, oh, Kodesh Baruch Hu, please save me from the situation. That's not bitachon. That's, I don't know what that is exactly. It's davening. I don't know. It's not a bad thing. But that's not, that bitachon according to the Chovos of Avos is a life saturated with trusting in a Kodesh Baruch Hu. The second you wake up, to the second you go back to sleep.
It's a default mode.
But in
No, it's in other words it's
an operating system. Yeah. It's an operating system.
Operating system.
Yeah, default makes me nervous.
Yeah.
It's an operating system. That's what it is. It's an OS.
The goal is to get there where it's default mode.
What?
The goal is to eventually get there where that's the default mode of the operating system, but you got to upgrade to.
Yeah, they make the changes. So I was telling this guy that what one could do, right? We over the course of the Shiurim, we've given different eitzes. A person can and should, if he knows that there are certain situations that throw him off in life, whatever it may be. If he knows today he's going to go into a meeting, he knows he's going to go into something difficult with his kids, whatever it may be. There's a bitachon meditation. Spend a quiet minute or two, visualizing very basically. Could be even if you're not. I'm not saying with actual pictures. Just visualizing, meaning think about the situation in your brain as best as you can, knowing I'm going to go into this situation. I might get overwhelmed, but I'm going to remember bitachon and say it out. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants me to do this today. He's the one who's in charge. Only him, nobody else. It's ultimately for my best, even if I don't see it, I don't understand it, and it looks the opposite of what I would expect. I want to drop all expectations. I'm going to go into this situation 100% trusting in a Kodesh Baruch Hu, however it comes out. Right? If you do that before the day, you do it before the situation, you have a better chance. But that's the avodah bitachon, slowly but surely getting it dripped in. That's what it is. Bitachon, we should be so good in our bitachon that we never even have to use our bitachon. If you know what I mean. You don't have to use it. You just go through life and you're with God. Everything is exactly what it's supposed to be. But what it doesn't mean, before I get to the next part, which we'll start, what it doesn't mean is that a person is supposed to become a robot and become emotionless. It's not what it means. Lowly, a person has someone to pass away. That's sad. That's sad. There was a connection to this person, and this person was taken out of the world. Did a Kodesh Baruch Hu decide it was the best? Of course. That doesn't mean a person shouldn't cry. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants us to cry. That's part of human experience. That's part of growing, is to be able to cry. What bitachon does is it rids us of the inappropriate reactions. Be sad, but don't be depressed. Mourn, but don't be despondent. Right? Don't fall more than... Don't fall. Being sad is not falling. Sad is being human. Yish, hopelessness, despondency, just becoming negative, self-destruction. That's a problem. That's where bitachon says, don't go there. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants this to happen. Hashem wanted someone to pass away? Yes, that's how life goes. So I could be sad, that's okay? That's what Hashem wants? Yes, you can be sad. You could cry. But don't become depressed. After 7 days, we got to get back up. But then there's 30 days to still remember. And after the 30 days, there's a year of Kodesh, still remember. Right? We don't just say, no, you're just trust the Kodesh Baruch Hu knows what he's doing, it's okay, just move on in life. No, we're humans. The Kodesh Baruch Hu made us in a certain way that we have to grow, we have to work, we have to be connected with real emotions. What bitachon does is rid us of the inappropriate reactions. It lets us live, I think, more fully emotional, more better equipped, yes?
Yes, knowing how to react in every situation would be part of it. I mean, mourning in the case of a death is appropriate. Mourning in the case where you lose the deal or whatever, that's inappropriate.
That's through bitachon work. That's gonna help all of these things.
Right.
It's gonna help all these things if you work through it. It's not just gonna happen. You have to work through it. Person has a deal go down and he starts to mourn. If he has the bitachon, at least intellectually, well, now let's work through this. Should I be mourning over this? Why, I lost this deal. This could have been worth millions. Well, let's work through this situation. Bitachon. Well, do I believe that there's a Bari Olam? Do I actually believe and trust in him that it's going to be okay and he'll get it from me in a different way? Or did I even really need it? Maybe I didn't even need it. Start questioning. The people who don't have bitachon, they just go into the mourning stage. That's it. They're despondent, and then time will heal at some point. They'll get out of it. Or maybe not. Bitachon, as we've said, it gives you the tool to, let's calm down for a second. Let's have some fun. Let's work it through. Let's see. So let's go into another emotion that can come out from, let's say, the children or the spouse, maybe. So on page 156, we'll use this as a springboard. It says, "V'yorim ofne so alosam binyani atar v'ha'olam avodas haborei k'ma shekasav v'havta l'recha kamocha v'amer lo sisna es achicha bilvavecha." He should teach them. Now he doesn't say who this is. Before he was talking about a wife, kids, friends, even enemies maybe. He was talking about all this whole group. So let's assume he's talking about everybody. He should teach them the appropriate way to conduct themselves, both in Torah matters and in worldly matters. Right? Should be a teacher. If you can help somebody, help somebody. Ruchnis, Gashmis. Which will benefit them in their service of the Creator. Specifically, you should help someone in their Ruchnis. As it's written, you shall love your fellow as yourself. V'havta l'recha kamocha. And that l'rei'echa, that friend is not specifically a friend. It could be a spouse, it could be children, it could be a friend. As it says in the pasuk before, you should not hate your brother in your heart. Right? So again, if you just read this straight, you'd say, okay, I get it. These are mitzvahs in the Torah. These are very, very big mitzvahs in the Torah. And its negative counterpart, lo sisna es achicha b'vavecha. What does that have to do with bitachon? Now, one nakuda of bitachon that it has to deal with, and we've learned this, is that for a person to properly have bitachon, for a person to put himself in the position personally to be able to trust in Hashem. Yes, right? Again, from our perspective, not Hashem, from my ability to be able to properly trust in the Kodesh Baruch Hu, it is very dependent to be doing Avodas Hashem properly. But it is not 100% dependent. I want to put that in parentheses because we've learned that. A person who is not doing Avodas Hashem properly still is allowed to and can and should trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because that will get you out. But that's in parentheses. That's not really for now. Put that to the side. But what is for now, and just the first nakuda I want to mention, is that if we're good Ovdei Hashem and we're trying our best, we'll have more of an ability to be able to live by the 155 pages before that we've been learning. We have a better chance. Part of that is teaching, being a spiritual person, being a ruchnis person, learning Torah, doing mitzvahs, and teaching it to others. But maybe we could try to bring out a nakuda from this and how it deals specifically with bitachon in situations with emotions. So I'll tell you something that hit me yesterday. I told the teens this. This is the Devar Torah I said to the teens yesterday. It's really more for adults. But yeah. So I was asking like this. So yesterday's parsha. So we have yesterday's parsha is the parsha of Chinuch. Right? Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Esav, each going their ways. So one could look at the Torah, and just read the parsha, and hear a little bit of Chazal. And when it says that Esav comes ayef, he's tired, and right, and that's when Yaakov gets him to sell the Bechor. Why is he ayef? Because he just murdered people. He was just mezana. He's a kofer. Gemara says all these horrible things. And the Viter you hear when Esav gets married, and it's a moras ruach. It's very bad to Yitzchak and Rivka. And you see Esav tricking, and then at the end he wants to kill Yaakov. You could look at the parsha and say, wow, Yitzchak and Rivka Taka failed. They failed miserably. I mean, with Esav at least, Yaakov they got a good one, and Esav, the parsha just failed. You know, look at this guy.
You're saying bad parenting.
That's what one could look at the parsha. Obviously, I'm not going to say that, but
Yeah.
you could say that clear. What do you mean?
They blew it.
They blew it. Now, I gave the kids a mashal. Should I give the mashal? I'll give the mashal very quick. I said like this. I said there was a guy, whatever his name is, and he, as a young boy, his father trained him to be a chess player. Chess player. And he was very good. And throughout his life, his younger years, he got very, very good. He became a master, a grandmaster. He was playing at a professional level. It wasn't his profession, but it's a hobby of his, and he was very, very good at it, and it gave him confidence. So finally, when he had a child himself, he says, I'm going to teach my kid chess. Work for me. I'm going to see if it's kedai, right? If the kid's really out to lunch, he's not going to force it on him. He's a good father. So he saw the kid was 4 or 5 years old. He starts talking the pieces, and the kid starts to get it. And by 6, 7, he has a little bit of a brain. He starts doing some moves. 8, 9, 10. He continues going on, and they spend a lot of time together training him in chess, and the kid seems to be taking to it. And they spend many hours walking together, talking about strategies, key concepts. You understand? And as the kid's 10, 11, 12, the father starts to set the kid up to play against other kids, older kids in the town, maybe even adults. Just come to the house and play. And every time his kid would win, he'd take him out for, Seasons Express. He'd take him out to restaurants, to be mechazik the kid and to show him that he was really proud of him. And this is going on for a while. And now the kid gets to high school. Gets to high school, 9th grade. And he gets finally the first, not professional, but his first tournament, a real tournament. 64 players, schools across the county. And his father signs him up. This is it. This is the beginning of his stardom, his to grandmaster. 64 players, game by game. You have to win a few games to win. And he's all excited. And they, again, hours and hours of preparation. What are you going to do? Which moves? And they get into the first game, and he's playing. He loses. First game, lost, out, beat, bad. The father loses it. I trained this kid. He didn't win. I'm a loser. I didn't do what I have to do. I'm guilty. I know all the chess moves. I spent all the time with him. I must have done something wrong. And he's just sitting there. He's just broken. He's Aish. And the kid comes over to him. He sees his father down. And the kids don't really bother him so much. He wasn't, And he comes over and he says, Daddy, I see you're upset, but I really appreciated it all the time we spent together. I really appreciated all the talks we had, the walks, the playing with you, taking me out to restaurants. I think you're a great dad. What does it mean? A father has 2 major roles for the kids. Number 1, to be a father. Number 2, to be a mechanech. Those are 2 different roles. You could be mechanech, a child. Yitzchak's mechanech Esav till 13 years old. He was in yeshiva, he was learning, and it could be he even looked like he was learning, right? Esav was playing the part. How was Yitzchak supposed to? Maybe Yitzchak didn't know. Maybe Esav Taka was very tricky, he was very, very hidden. We don't know. We don't know what went on. We have no idea. So we're just using Yitzchak, Yaakov, Esav. We don't know what actually happened. We have to learn something. But we're going to assume Yitzchak trained Esav best he could. But at 13, he's a Baal Bechira. He could choose, I don't want this Avodas Hashem stuff. I'm out of here. What are you supposed to do? No, Esav, come back. We'll Fabrang, we'll have Cholin. Esav, no, I'd rather go and just shoot arrows and kill people. What are you supposed to do? But what did Yitzchak do? But yeah, he loved him. We see that Yitzchak stayed close as a father to Esav. And Haraya worked because who do we say teaches us Kibbut Avayim? Esav HaRasha. Esav HaRasha is the paramount. He is the poster boy for Kibbut Avayim, which is one of the biggest mitzvahs. Very, very big, right? So we see that Yitzchak was still a father. The chinuch, he tried.
Can you clarify why he's the poster child? I didn't follow
Esav?
that. Yeah.
I'm not going to go into that now, but we know that he was mechabed. Let's just say simply. He was mechabed his father. That's clear.
Can you define being a father, please?
Being a father means having a child and taking care of them with love and what's normal. Outside of Avodas Hashem.
How is that different from being a father?
Mechanech means I'm training, I'm educating. Two different things. Being a father, I'm not training him. I'm loving him. I'm taking care of him. What? A Rebbe's mechanech. So the father has two roles. He has to be like a shtickle, like a Rebbe. Chanach lenar al pi darko is going on the father. But then he has to be a father. Love the kid. Take care of the kid. Feed him. Clothe him. Play chess with him. Love Dafka educating him. So a father, a parent, let's just say a parent, knows he's supposed to train the child. And we do have a mitzvah. Every parent has to train their children. Could even be friends. You're supposed to. But let's say a parent. It could be a spouse also. But a parent could feel very guilty when the kid doesn't take to that chinuch. You really spend time with him to have good midos, and he has bad midos. But you really spend time with the kid. So now you feel, I'm guilty. It's my fault that this kid is a mechutzef. And that can take a big hit on a parent. That can create stress, that can create anxiety, guilty feelings, and then it could create chinuch problems, the way that you now respond to the kid, right? It can create shalom bayis problems. It can create a lot of problems because when a person feels guilty or he feels stressed, anxious, responsible and in a bad way, now his system's going to be off again. He's going to probably make bad choices. So what does Bitachon say? So we learn this. Bitachon says, it's your achrayus. You have to do a shtadlis, but not the result.
You're right.
The result, if you want to, we could discuss it afterwards in detail. We're speaking now in general. We can speak details afterwards. But a person has an obligation to train a child. So you have to do your shtadlis. Shtadlis means what? Send him to school, be a good father, train the child as best as you can. Again, I'm not going into all the details. But let's say the kid says, I don't care what you're teaching me. I love you, but I don't care about God. Let's say the kid says that. You say, but God's so nice. And there's cholent and there's for brain. The kid's like, I don't care. And you say, now what? Now what do you say? So you say, get out of the house? All right, you stink. Get out. Next. Or do you give him a hug and say, but I love you? I'm not going into all details of chinuch now. But what do? You can control every kid? Not possible. No such thing. You can't even control yourself, let alone another human being. Right? Our body also tells us to follow Kodesh Baruch Hu, and sometimes we don't follow him. So but we're going to control the kid. Of course you have to try. Of course you have to shtadlis. The best of shtadlis in the world, with all the love. And sometimes they need gvura. Sometimes they need ahava. Sometimes they need teferes. They need a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, it's not your responsibility. Because if it was, then Yitzchak Avinu has a big blemish on his report card. Esav. Avram has Yishmael. We're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. You know what the Gemara says about Moshe Rabbeinu's children? I don't even want to say. If you don't know, I'm not telling you. You can find out later. Doesn't end off good. Who are Moshe Rabbeinu's children? Anybody know? You don't hear about them. You know?
No,
You don't know.
I hear anything about them.
You don't hear. The Gemara mentioned something. Child, the grandchild. Not pleasant things. So that's it. So that's it means Moshe's the worst father in the world. Yitzchak's the worst father. Avram's the worst. No. They're amazing fathers. They're the Avos. That's their name. And they did the best they could, but what are you supposed to do? Sometimes, what happens when a parent says, oh, but I didn't do the best I could? I'm not talking about that right now. That's a little bit more complicated. You have to know how to deal with that properly, emotionally. When you feel like you didn't do all that you could, sometimes you really did, and you're just being hard on yourself. Sometimes you really didn't, and still you have to know how to take the blame and not. There'll still be tougher than that. Maybe you just didn't have the capabilities. It gets very detailed. But at least if a person has the understanding of bitachon, and he's going through sugyas, let's say his children, in his head, he has new tools to work with. That's the point here. You can't go through every single detail. But a person usually raises his children without bitachon. Or the general bitachon, like, yeah, Kodesh Baruch Hu will take care or something. Okay, that's good. But there's many, many more details that a person can enter into the cheshbon when he's trying to understand his kids or deal with his kids or how he should respond to them or respond to himself or to his wife. There's millions. But if you have bitachon, true bitachon, that there's a Borei Olam, he gave me these kids, he gave me this spouse, he creates the situations, everything's for the best, only he can control it, he knows more than I know, He's been with me since I'm a kid. Now you have the tools to, 1 second, let's work through this. Is it really all my fault? Nothing in life can be 100% a person's fault. Then you're just a kofar. How can it be 100% your fault? There's no God? The percentages I'm not dealing with now. But I want to make that point. Because a person sometimes goes into yish. Who's the yish, the hopeless person? It's all my fault. That's not true. It's not true. That doesn't mean you couldn't have made better choices. We could deal with that. But first, the person needs to be like, 1 second. Let's get the proper setting here. There is a Borei Olam, and he was part of this. Let's now see. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I think that may be what the Chovos is bringing out when we have to train our children in spirituality, and they don't go the way that we would have liked. But when you think that God says to you, your obligation is to train this kid so he turns out to be a tzaddik, now you're going to have trouble. That's not what Kodesh Baruch Hu said. Kodesh Baruch Hu said, train your child. I'll deal with what he turns out to be. You do you. Parent, you love your kid and you try to train them. You have to do your best. But what he becomes, that's up to me now. That's my world. So it takes a lot of pressure, not off the hishtadlus. It takes a lot of pressure off the emotional response, the negative feelings, the guilty feelings, the coulda, shoulda, woulda, oh my gosh, if I only... That's what we're getting rid of, because that's inappropriate. To take a shtadlus, to take a chrayas, 100% appropriate. We have to do that. Bitachon is not saying... Bitachon, hishtadlus is part of bitachon. Not two different things. Your hishtadlus works within bitachon. Okay, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll continue with this next week.